Hello guys, today we're going to study the second part of 3.1. This is what we did it previous lesson. Okay, so today we're going to graph a quadratic function in the form right here, f of x equal to ax squared plus bs plus c form. Okay, let's go ahead and work on this example. So we want to graph f of x equal to negative x squared minus 2x plus 1. We're going to start with from here. Alright, we're just going to look what is our a. If you look right here, we're going to match. A is -1 in our case, and then b is, if you look right here again, b is -2, and then our c is +1. So once we had our ABC, so what we're going to do is very similar to previous lesson. So we're going to start with to find out if this parabola is going to go upward or look downward. So from here, because we know our a is -1, which is less than 0, that means our parabola is looking downward. And then for second step, for step 2, find our vertex. So let's go ahead and write it down. Find the vertex. Here I'm going to give you how to find the vertex. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to find -b over 2a, and then we're going to also need to find the f of -b over 2a. Okay? It looks complicated, but it's very not that bad. What you're looking is the vertex. This, if you think about we learned this long ago, that was just our x because it's the ordered pair. Here is just our x as our ordered pair, and then here is just your y. So when you look at this form, that means if we plug in our x in your function, that's how you can calculate it for your y. Let's go ahead and just plug in this formula. We're going to look for what is our -b over 2a. So our b is, so we're going to have, don't forget, that's negative sign, and then our b is -2 over 2 times a. So our a is -1. Okay, all I'm doing is just plug in the ab. So from here, we have negative become positive. So this is going to be +2 over -2, which will give us -1. Okay, so that is our -b over 2a. So once we find this, we also need to find the f of -b over 2a. So that will be f of -1. If we plug in this -1 for your function, remember your function right here. So all you're doing is just going to evaluate this function. So this is our x right there. Okay, this is our x. Now you're going to replace with your -1 for every single x. So that would be -1, because that's my, I'm going to replace with x, that would be square, minus 2 times -1, then +1. Okay, that gave us +2. Okay, take your time to do this. Hence our vertex is -1, 2. Step 3, find the x-intercept by solving f of x equals 0. Again, we've done this previously. All you're doing is replace the f of x to 0. That will be -x squared minus 2x plus 1 equal to 0. And then we go ahead going to solve it. So when you solve this quadratic equation right now, you can use any method. Okay, in this case, let's use quadratic formula. Okay, so that is your quadratic formula, just in case some of you guys forgot. So let's go ahead and work on this. So that means that my x is equal to -b, so that is my b. Okay, that's b, this is the a, and then this is c. So b is -2, so that would be -2 plus minus -2, that's my b, square minus 4 times A is negative 1 and C is 1. And then over 2 times A, negative 1. X equal to 2 plus square root of 8 over negative 2, which is around negative 2.4. Because we need to graph it, we're not going to use the square root. That's why I want to get a decimal numbers. So we're also going to have x equal to 2 minus the square root of 8 over negative 2. So in this case, we're going to get around 0.4. So the x-intercepts at negative 2.40 and 0.40. So let's move on to step 4. So you should realize this is very similar to what we have done in previous lesson. Step 4, we need to find y-intercepts by evaluating f of 0. Let me just go ahead and write down what was the original function. F of x equal to negative x squared minus 2x plus 1. So we want to evaluate f of 0, which means we use 0 to replace your x. So that would be negative 0 squared minus 2 times 0 and then plus 1. So which gives us 1. The y-intercept at 0, 1. So step 5 is graph it. Okay, I have wrote everything we found so far from all the steps. So we have a downward, we have a vertex at negative 1, 2. Let's go ahead and find it. Negative 1, 2. So that is our, right there is our vertex, right? So then here we know it's going to go downward. So we also have our x-intercept at negative 2.40. So it's right here somewhere, negative 2.4. So we have 0.4, so right here somewhere. We also have our y-intercept at 0, 1. So this point right here. So once we have all those points, so we know this is going to look like something like this. Here we have the axis of symmetry. If you want to label it, you can. Okay, you complete your graph. Again, be careful on this kind of question. I know when it's a homework, you can just do it really quickly on Math Excel. However, on your test, you must show all your steps. If you miss your steps, you're going to lose your points. Okay? Alright, let's go ahead and work on example 4. So here we have a quadratic function. F of x equals negative 3x squared plus 6x minus 13. So the question is, look at part A. Determine without graphing whether the function has a minimum value or a maximum value. Because we know for part A, we can find, right? We can find our A is negative 3, B is 6, and C is negative 13, correct? Because I could just write it here, match them, that will be ax plus ax squared plus bx plus the C form. So then I'm just matching it, finding my ABC. So in this case, we actually don't really necessarily need to find the ABC for part A, but it's really used for part B and C, okay? Because we know A is negative 3, which is less than 0, that means this is going to be a downward. When we have a downward, in this case, you should automatically think that vertex must be the maximum. So that is the first question. So we have a maximum value. So let's go ahead and move on the part B. Find the minimum or maximum value. So which means in our case we're dealing with maximum value. So we want to find it where it occurs. If you look right here, it tells you it occurs as x equal to negative b over 2a, and then the maximum value is f of negative b over 2a. So I'm going to write x equal to, that will be negative b over 2a. So I look at right here, I can write negative 6 over 2 times negative 3 give us positive 1. Then I can continue work on this. I can find f of negative b over 2a, which is f of 1, because we just found this 1. So I'm going to plug here. So now I'm going to evaluate this function. So I'm doing the same thing. That will be negative 3 times 1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 13. So if you don't know what I'm doing, let me just highlight it. So I'm replacing my x with my 1 to evaluate this function. So with this whole thing, you can do the math, and then that will give you negative 10. Then we say the maximum value is negative 10 at 1. So right there is negative 10, and it occurred at 1. So that's where that one. So part C, identify the function's domain and its range. Let's go ahead and do this on this side, since we have more room. Because we had a graph like this, correct? So look downward, we had our vertex, which we just found is actually 1 and negative 10. So if you look at this graph, and then we're going to say, hey, you know, what is our domain range? Previously I mentioned when we talk about domain, it's just going to be from the left to the right. So for actually quadratic function, the domain always actually is negative infinity to positive infinity, because I explained it in previous lesson. Okay, because this go to the left forever, this go to the right forever. So then we look at range. Range will look up, down. So we'll always start with small numbers. So here is the smaller numbers. That will be from negative infinity. And then we're going up, 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 up. And then we meet right here, which is negative 10. That will be include negative 10. That is your range. Example 7, maximizing area. Most of the time when we see these application questions, right away, somehow you just think like, oh, I cannot do it. So make sure you actually have the willingness to figure out. So basically it says you have 100 yards of fencing enclosed a rectangular region. So I have a graph right here. So I want you to find the dimensions of the rectangle that maximize the enclosed area. So then it asks you what is the maximum area. So the idea is you have to find the dimension, then you find your area. Okay? We know in this case our area, right? If we say this length is x and the width is y, so we know the area must be x multiplied y, correct? Then we also know that because we're using 100 yards, you know, here also is x and here is y. If I add 2x plus y, that means you're going to have 100, correct? Once we have this, we know we have two variable, one equation, we cannot solve it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write y by using x. So we're going to solve for y. In this case, we have 2y, so I'm going to have 100. I'm going to move this positive 2x to another side. That will be subtracted 2x. Once we have here, we're going to divide by 2 both sides. Then we're going to have y equal to 50 minus x. Then we also know area is our x multiplied y. So now I can rewrite this as x multiply, so here we're going to do a substitution, x multiply 50 minus x. So now I can continue this, do a distribution. That will be 50x minus x squared. So once we have here, we want to somehow figure out what is the maximum area. So I'm going to rewrite this area as the form of negative x squared plus 50x. I just changed the order. Since we have been learning f of x equal to ax squared plus bx plus c form, we can find in our case a is -1, and then that means that gave me less than 0, so that shows us you're going to have a downward. That means you're going to produce a maximum. That's what we have been learning. So now we're going to find what is our x, and then we're going to find our y. So because we said we can actually find this, my vertex, right? We've done this a couple times now. So we're going to find our x equal to -b over 2a, which is negative, our b is 50, and then 2 times a is -1. So here we're going to have positive 25. So once we find the positive 25, so then f of -b over 2a, you're going to plug it in f of 25, you plug in your original function, okay? That is right here, negative x squared, so that would be negative 25 squared plus 50 times 25, okay? And then you can actually find that this is 25. So another method to find your y is actually maybe easier for you. We know y actually equal to 50 minus x, correct? So what we can do is we're just going to plug in this 25 in here. That will be subtract 25, you get 25 as well. So they are equal to each other, just different method to do it. So that actually means this vertex is just 25, 25. Both your x and y coordinates, they are same. Then some student going to think, okay, wait a second, this is a rectangle. Why we're finding a square? You have to remember square just a special case of the rectangle. So we find our dimension is 25 by 25, right? So when we want our maximum area, which is in our case that will be x multiplied y. So we already found our length and width. So you're going to get your area, which is 625 square yards. Okay, you finished this question. Again, it's not that bad. If you think about it, you just set your equation, alright? You use your 2x plus 2y, and then you rewrite y by using x. Once you have this, you use the area formula, and then you do a distribution, and then you rewrite this form of the descending order, and then you find your a is always going to be negative. Because they're asking you maximum, your a never going to be a positive number. Because when a is positive, you're going to have a minimum. Okay? And then you plug in your x equal negative b over 2a. Then once you find your x, you can find your y easily. Okay? Let's look at a homework question. This question, I'm just going to give you some hints. I'm not going to solve the whole thing. If you look right here, okay, you have, again, this time that you use 600 meters of fencing. It's very, very similar. But here is a rectangle again, but we don't have to fence that side. It's only going to be 3 sides. So that is the tricky part. Once you realize this, the rest are exactly the same. They already write it for you. They write x, here x, they already calculate this for you. 600 minus 2x. You didn't even have to draw yourself. You write a of x equal to your width multiply your length. So that will be your width is x, your length is 600 minus 2x. And then you do a distribution. That will be negative 2x squared plus 600x. Once you have this, everything else that will be really straightforward. X equal negative b over 2a. You find this, and then you find your y, which in this case you didn't have a y. You could just write it as f of negative b over 2a. And then whatever you get right here, you plug it in, just do the same thing, okay? Then you find your length, okay? So you're going to have a very similar questions on your test. So make sure you know how to do your work and do this type of question. You cannot guess, okay? So you get 0 points on guessing. Thank you very much for watching the video. I'll see you guys next time.